Welcome in to another episode of Part Post Addiction Recovery and Transitioning. I'm your host, Miss K. Another day above ground, so I'm grateful, as you already know. Blessed to have you all giving me an opportunity, giving me your ears and your eyes, and I truly appreciate everything you all have done. And hopefully this podcast is a blessing to you as well. I do enjoy the feedback I get, so don't be afraid to shoot me a text, a tweet, hit me up on Instagram, like whatever you want to do. I am still working on the website, so don't fear. I know it's out there, but it's not quite 100% to my liking, and I'm kind of a perfectionist, so it's not where it needs to be just quite yet. But don't worry, I haven't given up on it. I got it coming. In the meantime, throwing out there another episode. This one is called Family or Foe. Family or Foe. Just to give you a little insight, what's the definition of foe? Foe is an enemy or an opponent. An enemy or an opponent. When you think of family, it's the people closest to you. It's grandma, grandpa, uncles, aunts, first cousin, third cousin, fifth cousin, whatever. But those are typically the people that are closest to you. They're right there by your side. In some cases, they grew up with you, your siblings, they've been with you all your life. But when you think about a foe, typically it's someone who's against you. It's an enemy. It's an opponent. Someone who isn't in your corner. They're rooting against you. They might even smile in your face and stab you in your back when you turn around. But that's what foes do. So I chose family or foe because I started thinking back on my own addiction in itself. And when I look back at my addiction and how it started with the people closest to me, my family. Like I stated in previous episodes, I watched others partake in substances, whether it be alcohol or smoke weed or whatever the case may be, smoking cigarettes. And I know you might say it's not a substance, but it's a gateway, in my opinion. And once you start smoking cigarettes, you're inquisitive about other things as well. So I remember growing up watching people drink and being like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to be like that. And then watching people smoke cigarettes, I'm like, them things stink. Oh, I was one of them people. Them things stink. Ugh, it's disgusting. Why are you doing that? And just smoking weed, I was just like, wow, that stuff really stinks, that skunk. And so it was my family. It was the people closest to me. And let me set the record straight. None of my family, I believe, intentionally wanted me to turn to substances. However, I'll take that back. One person in particular offered me a beer when I was really young. And I was like, no. And I mean really young. And I don't know if they even remember that to this day, but I definitely didn't forget that. But other than that, there was no one in my family who just was like, here, I want you to get involved in that substance. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. A lot of times addiction starts with the people closest to you. So it's that brother or that sister that you watch go out and party and come home and they're inebriated and they're stumbling all over themselves. That's the situation that you're looking at. And as a young child, you're soaking all of that in. You're inquisitive. You're saying to yourself, wow, what is that they're taking? What are they on? I want to know how that feels. What does that feel like? And it's just something that's natural to happen. But I really don't believe that my family, any of my family, was intentionally trying to get me on anything. There's very few people in my life, to be honest with you, that have tried to get me to do a substance. I'm very strong-minded. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm very strong-minded. And when I say no, I mean no. There is no you convincing me. It's got to be something that I wanted to do on my own. I already had like a little thought about trying it. And, you might have nudged me a little bit, but if I'm against something, you're not going to change my mind. There's just no way. I've been raised to stand up for what you believe in, especially when you know that you're doing the right thing. Don't just follow a bad crowd or do the wrong thing just because, that was something that was taught to you to do. So my mother always said, stand up. You know it's wrong, don't do it. If you know it's a bad crowd, walk away. So it was never a thing for me, peer pressure so much when it came to substances. Now, it might have showed its head in other facets, but never in substances. But it just made me think about how many people have had those family members. I've heard countless stories where there's a family member that is like, hey, want to try this? It reminds me of me watching it might have been on YouTube, a clip or something on somewhere. I'm pretty sure it was YouTube, but it was about DMX. And anybody who knows DMX, we all know that he struggled with substance abuse for a very long time. He never really could get over that hump. He would just like be sober for a little bit and then he'd go back to it, or he'd get arrested, or, things like that. And I finally, either close to his death or right after his death, I watched the clip on YouTube, and it was him talking about how he first got involved in substances. And he said that he had a really good, close confidant who offered him something laced with cocaine. He thought it was just marijuana, and it was laced with cocaine, and he was like 14. I'm pretty sure that's how the story went. I don't want nobody jumping down my throat if I misspoke, but I'm pretty sure that's how the story went. And I was blown away. And I'm like, no wonder he couldn't get over the hump. Like, imagine someone giving you such a hard substance at such a tender age, when the brain isn't developed, when you don't even know left from right fully. You're just trying to get your hormones under control, and you going through the normal motions of becoming an adult. You already have a lot going on, but then for someone to throw that in there, that's crazy. And I said, no wonder he could not get clean. That had to be the worst thing. And he said he cried in the actual interview and said that he never forgave that person. Like, they destroyed his life. They messed him up, because obviously we all know coke, crack, things like that are highly addictive. And when you're given that as an adolescent, I mean, the chances are against you. The chances that you get clean or you get off of that and you don't touch it anymore doesn't look good. Like, so my heart went out to him, because I'm like, wow, that's crazy to give someone such a hard substance at a young age. Like, that's crazy. And I felt bad, and it made sense why he just couldn't battle it. He couldn't get through. Like, he would do well and go right back. And it just tore my heart. It really did tear away at my heart, because, people judge from the outside. People hear or see an addict, and, oh, look at that crackhead, or look at that alcoholic, or look at that heroin addict. But you don't know what got them to that point. You don't know their story. And some of these substances are very difficult to get off of, very difficult. And when you try to get off of them, you start to have all kind of adverse reactions where you're twitching, or you picking at your skin, or your blood pressure suddenly drops, heart rate slows. Like, you're literally going through multiple different things that are affecting you. So it's just crazy to me that he unfortunately had faced that. It's just so many people who have that story. I was blessed that those type of things weren't offered to me, because I don't know if I would have been able to say no. Knowing how addictive my mentality is now, and how easily it was for me to be addicted. When I think back, I mean, after I smoked a cigarette a couple of times, I was hooked on cigarettes. After smoking weed a couple of times, I was hooked on weed. After drinking, you already know the story. I was like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. So I already identify myself as having an addictive mentality. Like I'm easily addicted to things, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm easily addicted to things. So I had to be, and still have to be, very careful about things that I approach. I don't care if it's shopping online. I have to be like, whoa, taper back, calm down, because you know how addictive you can get. Anyway, so, it just made me think about, how many of you all had a brother offer you a substance and or a sister offer you a substance, or you saw them partaking in something, you wanted to feel what they felt. And, you can't change the past. That's one thing you can't do. So if that did happen, you know how to handle it. Just, first of all, face the fact that it occurred. Talk to that person. Tell them, hey, that was the gateway. That's what started me on it. But if that person, number one, is continuously abusing a substance, maybe that's not a good idea to have that conversation. If this person is not in your corner and you're trying to recover and get sober and they are steady like, hey, here's this substance. Like, I know you want it. Won't you come hang out with me tonight? Won't you come grab some drinks with me? They're not in your corner. If they know that you're trying to achieve sobriety and they are constantly approaching you and calling you out your name or saying, hey, you know what? You weak. I remember when you used to do this. Or you whack now. They're not in your corner. They're not in your corner. That's what you call a foe. That's an opponent. That's someone who's against you. You don't need that. You don't need that at all. Recovery is so critical. Your thinking in recovery is so critical. I remember just telling myself to rewire my way of thinking. Rewire my way of thinking. That meant I had to take some people out of my life as well that I didn't want to get rid of, but I had to. I had to distance myself. And these people weren't malicious people, to say the least, but they weren't healthy for my situation. And I don't judge anybody else for battling addiction because I know how hard it was for me to get out of it. But at the same time, I can't put myself in the same scenario that I used to. I can't do that. One of the sayings I like to say to people is, if you do the same thing after having a child that you did before you had a child, there's something wrong with the picture. Some type of shift should happen. So it's the same thing with addiction. If you're still hanging out in the bar, there's a problem. If you're still hanging around the same neighborhood of people, same ones you used to use with, there's a problem. If you are still communicating with your dealer, your ex-dealer, there's a problem. You literally have to remove yourself from that environment. And there's so many different things that I did personally. I don't like being introverted because that's just not my style. As I'm getting older, it is. But I found myself being like, okay, guess what? Unfortunately, I'm not hanging out anymore after work. I'm not going to the bar after work. I'm not going to go to so-and-so's house anymore. And I had to be real with them. I had to be like, hey, I know it's been a minute since we hung out, but I'm really trying to stay sober. So this is why. And I had several people say to me, oh man, you can hang out with me. You ain't got a drink to hang out with me. No, but I remember what we had. I remember our friendship centered around alcohol or marijuana or whatever. And that is no longer conducive to my lifestyle. That's no longer conducive. That's something that I can no longer do. So I have to switch it up. And I hate to use the word casualty, because it's not a casualty. That person isn't a casualty. But I had to like distance myself. And to them, it felt like they were a casualty, or they were of no need to me anymore. And that's the furthest from the truth. I had to do whatever it took to protect myself. It's a little different when it's family. It's a little different. Your family is there. Sometimes whether you like it or not. It might be your grandmother who lives with you, your aunt who lives with you, your uncle who stays with you, and this person is a raging alcoholic or a bad abuser, like just constantly abuses drugs. That makes it increasingly more difficult for you to prosper and recover in your sobriety. It makes it increasingly difficult. Environment is so critical. Environment is so critical. Hear me out. Environment is so critical. Peace of mind starts in here. It always starts here first. If this isn't firing on all cylinders, then everything else is going to also be off tilt. So it's really important that you start here. And when you're dealing with family, you just have to be real. You have to say, listen, I love you. You know, you mean the world to me. I'm Becky. You know, I love hanging out with my nephew. I love hanging out with my niece. But your drinking is affecting me. Your substance abuse is causing me to struggle with my own sobriety. And I know you got some family members that are like, so that's your problem, not mine. And I know it's easier said than done to say, all right, well, just remove yourself from that environment. Because sometimes that's the only place you got to stay, especially if you're an addict or a recovering addict. Most of us have lost everything at some point. Mom, dad, relationships, money, possessions, lost everything and had to start over. So I know how it is. I know how it is to be in a situation that's extremely uncomfortable. And you're trying to figure out how to remain sober, keep your peace of mind, and still protect the integrity of yourself. It's not easy. It's not easy. This is when I would say to find a higher power, to find something. Even if you don't choose to use a higher power, journal. Find a way to journal, to write down your feelings, to write down your thoughts, to help you organize your thoughts so that you can make those steps. Make a vision board. Man, a vision board, I want to make one so bad. I'm telling you all, that's my next project. A vision board. I never saw myself in this position. Although I saw myself getting sober, I never saw myself in this position. And there's nothing like a constant reminder of what your goals and your perspective is than a vision board, in my opinion. And I've always wanted to make one. So, I decided that I'm going to do that with my children because I want them to have their goals in their view, not in the rear view, in their forward view. So you can journal. And if you like me, I'm concerned about someone getting a hold of my journaling. I don't want someone reading my thoughts, my inner thoughts, and those type of things. Someone suggested to me not too long ago, hey, record it. You can record it on your phone. Now they have all these apps out there that you could put on your phone and you could record your thoughts. That's awesome. They also have apps for therapy. Now, again, logistically speaking, that might not be financially something that you're capable of doing at the moment. And I totally get it. So if that's the case, then, that's when you would use a recording app and try to record your thoughts. Some people that I know, they say they paint. I love painting. I just don't paint. Some people that I know, they draw. I love to draw. I just don't have a lot of opportunity to draw. But that is also another way to try to work through the things that you're going through. Find something you enjoy doing. I constantly work out, but even then that gets stagnant at some point. So I say to myself, okay, well, let me go find some other type of workout. So now I'm like shooting basketball with my son. I'm playing basketball with my son. That's another form of therapy for me. That gives me some time away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. It gives me an opportunity to spend time with my child. And it's a workout all in one on top of it. So just whatever your hobbies are, if it's crocheting, if it's sewing, if it's rollerblading, whatever it might be. Maybe you're a movie buff, not me. I'm so out of date. People are like, "Have you seen this?" And I'm like, "No." And it's not because I don't like movies. Again, I just don't have the time. I want to justify every minute of every day that I use, because you never know when your life is going to be snatched from your grasp. So it's a situation where it's like, I have to sit down and watch a movie with my children, but just to sit down and watch a movie by myself, no, it's not happening. But anyway, just find another way to reroute your thoughts until you have the opportunity to get it recorded or write them down. If you can afford a therapist, highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. But do your research first. All therapists are not created equal. They aren't. Trust me. They're paid like they're created equal, but they're not. I've had some that turned into friends, and I was like, hold up. I'm paying you $140 a week, and we just talking like friends? Nah, I'm good. No, thank you. That's okay. And I've had some that, I dealt with through my DWI, and I was set up through a program, and it was only $40 a session. And he was awesome. He was really, really good. And he got me to talk about some of the things that triggered my alcoholism, or may have, that I thought I buried or took care of when I was young. And I didn't. I just patched it up and kept it moving and tried to grow up and be an adult. So, find a way to get those thoughts onto some paper. Find a way to rewire your thinking, and start with the basics. Start with how you wake up every day. Confront these people who are causing you this pain in your family. Let them know, listen, I love you, but this is harsh for me. This is hard. And then reevaluate. If they're still not listening, if they're still not respecting your wishes, then you already know what it is. Don't fight that uphill battle. One thing that I've learned that took me a long time to learn was that you can't change people. That was the hardest thing, because my heart would be poured into people. I'm like, oh, I'm going to help so-and-so. And so-and-so didn't want the help. They didn't want it. So when a person is showing you their back and they're just refusing to listen, don't beat your head against a wall. What's that old commercial from back in the day? Don't be a crash test dummy. Buckle your seatbelt. Just don't be a crash test dummy. Don't let somebody keep stressing you out or having you on this emotional roller coaster because, they're creating an unwelcome environment for you. That's going to happen. That's just going to happen. So it's one of those things where you just got to be like, hey, you're creating this environment that's not conducive to my mental health or to my recovery or to my sobriety. And once they tell you no, or they don't care, or they're constantly trying to, hey, you want this substance? You know what to do. If you're a spiritual person, get to praying. I strongly suggest you get to praying. Pray hard. Ask God to relieve you of this situation some way, somehow. Find support groups. That's one thing that I never did, but I highly recommend it to others. It's, just different strokes for different folks. I never really thought that it would be beneficial for me to have support group. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be. I just never thought it would. So doesn't mean that I won't take that chance or try it. I know they have AA meetings, NA meetings, whatever the case may be, but find a source to take, your frustration to until you can get out of that situation. Remember, you don't pick your family. You don't pick your family. But distance yourself if you have to. If you have to lock yourself in a room and read books all day to keep you from drinking or abusing the substance, do what you need to do. Don't worry about what others think of you. Don't worry about their opinion. That was the best thing that I learned and I taught myself, is not to worry about other people's opinions, because everybody has an opinion. It doesn't mean it's accurate. It doesn't mean that they're right. So just go ahead and find another way, find another source, but hang in there, hang tough. And your family is your family. It doesn't mean that you have to listen to them. It doesn't mean you have to follow in their footsteps. They made their own decision. You make your own. You keep praying, keep fasting, do whatever it takes, exercise, painting, drawing, whatever it takes. But most importantly, perseverance. Continue to fight. If you stumble, you stumble. So what? Doesn't mean you're weak. Doesn't mean you're not worthy. It just means you stumble. We all fall down. But the question is, do you get up? And what happens when you do stand up? Do you fall down again? Or do you take a step in the right direction? I promise you, day by day, it's going to get easier and easier. Not going to always be easy, but it's going to get easier and easier with time. As always, I love you so much. Thank you for giving me an opportunity, and you all have a blessed evening.